Hi, my name's Greta, and welcome to Gretel Crumb's channel again. This is episode 2, and today we are talking about a little podcast called Deviser. And I gotta be upfront, the vibe is definitely like cutesy. It's not really horror podcast vibes. Like I got a purse today that is definitely not, again, the correct vibes, but they're cute. So we're not necessarily on theme, but it'll be a good experience, you know. Okay, so the reason we're talking about this podcast in particular is I think it does a good job of layering horror both in a narrative form and as the podcast itself. So I'm excited to talk about how it hits each of these different layers. First of all, the man behind this project is Harlan Guthrie. He literally does everything for this entire podcast. It's just kind of wild. It's funny to hear the credits sometimes. He's also known for the Magnus Protocol 2024 and Malevolent from 2020. And his voice in Malevolent is something else. He does a good job, and he does a great job, of course, in this project as well. So I want to hit on just some of the plot beats, so that way you have context for when I go over my analysis. First of all, the episode begins where we have son running from dad. Dad is saying, "Come back to reclamation." We don't know what that is yet. Son is begging and pleading, saying, "Please, Dad, no. Like, why are you doing this?" And he's like, I have to start again. He's like, "Why do you have to start again?" He's like, I gotta. It's like, hi. But anyway, son gets to some place where he thinks he's safe, and dog comes running. Dog bites, and there's a gross squelchy sound. There is like actual sound effects. So dog turns on son, and son is like horrified. The music really amps up at this moment. He runs away again. He thinks he's someplace safe, but psych, not so much. He goes into a room. Gas ignites, and we can kind of get a sense of what happens. Probably didn't survive that. And cut to, supposedly a significant amount of time has passed, and son greets dad. They have a bit of an exchange that establishes the context that they are on some kind of spaceship that is meant to help repopulate the Earth. And this comes in the form of a science-y type report, and we also get a sense kind of their relationship and how they interact. And then, of course, the next plot beat, the power goes out. And of course, son has to go manually turn the power back on. And we start to get more of a sense of the environment. He's walking around, the halls are dirty, which is weird, because if he's been, doing a normal day-to-day job on the ship, he would be kind of taking care of and maintaining the ship since he's the only one awake. But it's dirty. There's weird puddles, and a room feels hot when it's not supposed to, which again is also strange. So things aren't quite adding up. And he gets to a place where dad tries to get him not to go in that room. There's quite a few odd moments where the dad says something and the son is like, "Oh, that's not quite true," or "That's not there." So he's kind of denying his reality a little bit every now and again. But anyways, he ends up in a room that we can kind of infer is supposed to be the previous incinerator room. As far as I can guess, I could be wrong on that one. But either way, the room is hot, and it shouldn't be. And he hears something in the dark, which again is strange because he's supposed to be alone. He's supposed to be the only one awake. It's someone whispering. It's a very garbled kind of voice. Harlan Guthrie does a great job at those types of voices. And he freaks out, so he runs away. Some time passes, but we think he's somewhere safe. He, as far as I can tell. And he wakes up again. So again, time is missing or something. He keeps like waking up. Like we generally remember at least the steps or stages before we go to bed. You know, it's not just 5 or 6 hours pass unless you're doing things that result in that type of memory loss, which is a different thing altogether. Anyway, so he wakes up the next time or morning or whatever it is, and he greets his dog, and the dog smells his hand in a manner that's like, oh, something's odd. Like, you know, he's really smelling to see what is so unusual, what is standing out to the dog. And he looks, and his hand is like holding something from his time, we can gather, exploring the rooms or being stuck in that incinerator room, possibly. So, like, oh, what could it be? Who knows? Well, it's a finger. And we get this exchange. Is anyone else awake? 100% no. Then whose finger is this? So there's a lie here, right? That's how the episode ends. The dad lying to the son, and the son being horrified by a finger. So we have a body horror element again. Now, these 3 layers, body horror, betrayal by trusted companion, the dog, and paternal horror, the dad trying to get the son hurt or killed through reclamation, or just simply these huge lies about his environment itself. Now, as the audience, as you're experiencing these things, you start to imagine kind of the closest real world counterpart situational like feeling, you know, what you can relate to it. And so you imagine if your trusted companion, your dog, couldn't be trusted and suddenly turned on you. That's a huge disruption to one's reality. Nothing is safe, not your world, not your environment, and you can't trust your own dad. Like, those are huge destabilizing things to happen. And horror is all about destabilizing and showing you that you can't trust your environment, or things aren't quite as they seem. And your body physically reacts to these things when you see them in horror and when you hear them in horror. The tearing of the flesh, like, oh, the squelchy sounds, that is really tapping into that audience vulnerability of like, oh, that's uncomfortable. That's no one likes to imagine that happening. So that's how horror gets into your head, by really tapping into the sensory elements. So it's fun stuff, but it's a lot. And just to sum it up, there you go. That's really tapping into that vulnerability of a societal expectation that your parents are good to you, care about you, want to treat you with kindness, and want to see you, you know, being happy and well off. This podcast breaks that expectation, that kind of promise between, that at least promise that society tells you will happen, of, hey, your parents do and continue to like care about you, and there'll be evidence of that by the fact that they do these things. But there you go. And this is just one interpretation of it. I'm not saying this is the definitive read of this podcast, especially since I'm not even done with it. So it might only be like a momentary theme, or a theme for a couple of episodes, or like what we'll find out. But I think there is a read where we can read the disembodied voice of dad as that kind of abusive, controlling parent. He tells son what to do, what to think, what to believe, and he's also willing to kill what we can maybe guess is a version of son. And why, we don't quite know why, but it's painful and it hurts him. Like, why would a dad do that to his son? That's how we can kind of see that theme is present. Like, he has his own reasons for hurting him, and it seems so superficial, like so casual. And that's why it reads as this theme to me. Love, dedication, trust. Deviser breaks those expectations one layer at a time. We have other examples besides dad. The dog turning on him. The halls are dirty when they shouldn't be. The incinerator room is hot, again, when it shouldn't be. Son wakes up with no memory of falling asleep more than a few times. That breaks the expectation of personal autonomy. And given the fact that dad might be responsible, that in and of itself is yet another betrayal. And the final confirmation that dad is lying to son is he says, oh, there's nobody on the ship, nobody's awake, nobody on the ship that's awake. He's like, oh, well, where's this finger from? Horror needs real world anchors to land, and this episode has so many of them. It's great. And this is just a clean breakdown of where these big areas of audience vulnerability and just big themes this episode really hits effectively. Like, body horror is a huge part of this podcast. It's a prevalent theme, and I think that's how it effectively kind of makes the audience uncomfortable from the get-go. But we have these larger themes of betrayal, of one's personal autonomy and sense of self being disrupted in one's own environment. Like, that's the only environment he's in of itself is wrong. It feels wrong. And then at the very end of it, the lie is confirmed. There are also some problems that exist in podcasts. And by problems, I simply mean these are things that you have to solve for the story to kind of work effectively as a narrative. Like setting, where are we? What is reclamation? What is the key thing of what's happening in the episode? How do you communicate that to your audience? Who's dad? What's the mission? Where is son? What's in the incinerator room? And this podcast does a great job of using sound effects to show that, ignition, the flame sound effects, all of that. How he's so scared to go in there, the terror of your dog attacking you, using those gory sound effects, it makes it feel so much more immediate. And the terror in his voice, the fact that it is in actual like back and forth interaction, it's happening right now. This fight, we're not just seeing it kind of from afar, which could happen in a more video medium, I think this podcast just does a great job of taking advantage of all that it could do with sound effect, all that Harlan Guthrie, knows how to do. But again, here's some notes if you want to look at them. In terms of major categories of horror, I would break this down into external horror, internal, and audience vulnerability. We talked quite a bit about that. The external horrors are all the things done to our main character's son, who, since he's the only voice besides dad we hear, that really puts the audience in his shoes. So these things are being done to the audience, or at least they're experiencing them as the story goes along. The dog attacks, the dad lies, the incinerator kills, the breathing presence, the finger being found, and the eternal horrors are done by his own mind either being broken or wiped, or we don't quite know, but losing several hours at a time unless certain activities are happening is strange. Like, that shouldn't happen. His own sense of self and autonomy is being broken there, because if something is wiping his brain or mind against his will, that's something he's not allowing to happen. And the audience vulnerability is all of those things, all those times where you have experiences that overlap with those moments of betrayal or expectations, societal expectations being broken, and then the disappointment that is just quite painful to have experienced any of those things in your life. That vulnerability, that's what you bring with you into the dark as you're listening to this podcast. Those feelings, those emotions, that's what comes out. Choosing to name your characters son and dad is like as on the nose as you can get. That someone might have like daddy issues, at least the character might have daddy issues or some kind of equivalent. But I can't spoil things. As I know a little bit more past episode 1. I'm at around episode 5. The episodes aren't new to the beginning. What am I saying? Season 1 came out in 2023, so it's been a little while. But this is just, again, an interesting podcast. The way that it layers all these horror elements so effectively and time-wise, pretty sequentially, things are kind of layered. So it feels good as you're experiencing it. Well, not good, but good in a like, this is a good story. Would I recommend this podcast? Yes. To everyone? No, this podcast is not really suited for people easily scared, or if you have intense phobias, you don't like body horror, which a lot of people don't, especially I'm sure auditory might not be great for everybody. Best time and place to listen to it? Just really whenever you have a time or place where you can listen to a really engaging story and not be like too pulled by other stuff. Like, depending on your limits, it's definitely a podcast meant to be entertainment. I don't know if I'd recommend trying to drive. It's pretty engaging. A lot of non-horror fans not going to be into this. And I would say if you're trying to do a lot of like structured things, I don't know, just depends. But I have ADHD, so podcasts help me sometimes when I'm distracted. So it depends on you as a person. But anyways, thank you so much for spending time with me as we just kind of break this podcast down. I thought it was great. I think Harlan Guthrie did a great job with this one, and it's worth a listen, especially if you like his other projects. So have a good time. Have a good night. I don't know.